At age 12, Ronnie Long was a beautiful child with the voice of an angel. He loved to sing but often complained to his mother that he would give his musical talent away if he could just be big, strong, and athletic like the other boys in his neighborhood. It worried him that the other boys were out playing football and baseball while those things held no interest for him. He often thought that there must be something wrong with him, although his mother constantly assured him that God had given him the gift to sing and make music, and that was something that the other boys could not do. Ronnie was small for his age, with soft smooth skin and big blue eyes. His hair was not long, but it was thick with a natural curl, giving him somewhat of a feminine look. When he wore the long robes and sang solos in the church choir, many visitors mistook him for a girl. Ronnie had another worry. One day after choir practice, he overheard the choir director talking to his mother about his beautiful soprano voice. She explained that since Ronnie was almost 13, his voice would begin to change soon and his extraordinary musical talent could be lost. Although the training that he had would help, she could not guarantee that he would ever be as good as he was now. His mother was devastated and asked the director if there was anything that could be done to preserve that beautiful voice that had delighted so many members of the church. The director, Linda Goodman, said that there was nothing that she knew of short of gelding, and that was just not done anymore. On the way home, Ronnie was very quiet and deep in thought. He knew what Linda had meant about his voice changing because he had noticed that some of his friends at school were already beginning to talk with a much deeper voice, and some were even growing hair on their legs and body. Ronnie finally broke the silence and asked his mother what was meant by gelding. His mother had always been honest with him when difficult questions needed to be answered. Ronnie's father had died in the Vietnam War, so she felt the need to be honest with Ronnie on all subjects. She explained to him about castration, puberty, manhood, hormones, and what changes he could soon expect to see in his body. Ronnie asked questions like if he went ahead with castration to keep his voice, could he be uncastrated later? She explained that once it was done it could never be undone, and that she would never allow that to be done to his body anyway. They had arrived home but had sat in the driveway talking for a long time. Ronnie was obviously upset at the prospect of losing his soprano voice. Since he did not seem to be good at manly things, what would he do when he lost his one talent? Several months earlier, an executive of a major recording studio had attended Ronnie's church and was so impressed with Ronnie's voice and the choir that he had asked the church choir to cut a record with his company. Ronnie had several solos and would be featured on the album cover. The session was scheduled for the next week. Ronnie asked his mother what he would do if his voice changed before then, but she assured him that she didn't think it would happen that fast. As usual, Ronnie's mother was correct. His voice remained crystal clear and as sweet as a lark for the recording. Everyone was so proud when the record was released. Ronnie's picture was featured on the cover along with the rest of the choir in the background. It didn't even bother Ronnie that he looked somewhat feminine in the picture due to the fact that the photographer had applied a light makeup, brushed his hair to add body, and he was dressed in the long robe with the white collar. Everyone was even more excited 3 weeks later when the record became a bestseller. Ronnie became a little concerned when he read some of the reviews that referred to him as the young girl with the sweet, clear voice of a nightingale. It was early in June when Mark Anderson, a representative of the recording company, came to Ronnie's home to talk with him and his mother about making another record of just Ronnie. Both were excited with the prospect of Ronnie becoming a recording star, but Mrs. Long feared that it could not last. She explained her fears to Mr. Anderson. Ronnie would be 13 at the end of this month and the voice certainly would begin to change soon. Mark was well aware of the possibilities and argued that they must not allow this to happen. He claimed that Ronnie could easily earn millions as a singing star and suggested that Ronnie be given female hormones to slow the process of puberty. He even gave Mrs. Long the name of a respected doctor that would offer treatment. If Ronnie would undergo the hormone treatments, Mark Anderson was prepared to offer a 5-year contract that would guarantee a minimum of $200,000 a year. Ronnie's mother had vowed that castration was out of the question, but maybe this could be an acceptable alternative. They would talk to the doctor, but Mrs. Long made it clear to Mr. Anderson that they would promise nothing. The next day Ronnie and his mother sat in Dr. Robin's office and listened to his description of the advantages and any possible side effects of the proposed treatment. Both asked many questions. Ronnie sort of liked the idea of not developing a lot of body hair, but the thought of maybe developing small breasts scared him a little. In the end, they decided to go for it. The money was important, but mostly Ronnie wanted to continue to make beautiful music. He had his first hormone shot that day, and the contract was signed that afternoon. The following week Ronnie made his first record album, which was quickly a success. Ronnie made weekly visits to Dr. Robbins and continued to receive hormone shots. As soon as the doctor was sure that Ronnie's body was accepting the hormones without adverse side effects, he injected Ronnie with a time-delayed implant that would last for at least 6 months. Ronnie was already beginning to notice some change in his body the day he received the implant. His skin was smooth, his voice was as soft and sweet as ever, and he had the small, firm breast of a teenage girl. As the doctor slowly injected the implant into his body, he felt a thrill of pleasure knowing that he would have at least 6 more months of being what he wanted to be. At that time he did not know that being a singer was not his only desire. After 3 very successful records, Mark came by one day to tell Ronnie and his mother that he had received a request for Ronnie to appear on a primetime television show. He explained that the pay was good and it would sell a lot of records, but there was one problem somehow. The TV network and the general public had assumed that Ronnie Long was a female singer. To change that image now could very possibly damage Ronnie's career. He wanted Ronnie to appear on television as a girl, and he was willing to foot the bill for a new wardrobe and all the training that Ronnie needed to pull it off. Mrs. Long said no because she thought it would be unfair to her son. Ronnie, unknown to his mother, had been intrigued with the new body that he was developing and had wondered for some time how he would feel in more feminine clothes. He was now almost 15 years old, and even his mother was unaware of the changes that had taken place in Ronnie's body because he was able to hide his shape under loose-fitting clothes. He had almost completed puberty, but not in the way they had originally feared. Ronnie surprised his mother by saying that he would appear on TV as a girl. That was all Mark needed to hear. He hired a retired model named Kathy Grantham who ran a charm school for girls. Her job was to mold Ronnie into an acceptable young lady, and she had only 1 week to work her magic. She moved into the guest quarters of the Longs' home 2 days later, and Mrs. Long liked her from the beginning. They became good friends right away. Kathy went right to work. She had Ronnie remove all of his clothes except his shorts at their first meeting so that she could take measurements. Both women were shocked at the sight of Ronnie's body, and Kathy said, "Looks like the hormones and nature have already done most of our work for us. You poor thing, you should have been wearing a bra months ago." Kathy explained that starting right now he was to think of himself as she. Every word, every gesture, and every action had to be feminine. After she completed her measurements of Ronnie, she gave a list and a credit card to Ronnie's mother and asked her if she would mind running to the mall for a few items to get them started. After a bath in the best-smelling water Ronnie had ever smelled, Kathy had him put on a silk robe that belonged to his mother. She sat him in front of a mirror and began to work with his hair. His hair was fairly long, but not as long as Kathy would have liked. However, it was thick and curly, and she knew that with the right cut she could make it look very cute and feminine. In a few months she would really be able to do a lot with it. Ronnie was in a trance. He simply sat in the chair without speaking and watched the transformation. He loved what she had done to his hair, and the way it moved when he turned his head sent little chills through his body. The new shape that she added to his brows made his eyes look bigger. He was so excited that he didn't even complain when she pierced his ears and left pretty little pearls at the end of each lobe. She said to leave the pearls in for about a week until the ear lobe healed, and then he could wear dangling earrings, which would really look good with the new hairstyle. Her skill with makeup was unbelievable. When she finished, he could see no trace of the boy that once looked back at him from his mirror. He didn't understand the excitement he felt with the pretty girl he was becoming, but it felt natural, so he surrendered completely to Kathy's wishes. Even the act of surrender felt good. When Kathy first began the transformation, he had worried about what his friends might think if they knew what was being done to him, but after seeing the new Ronnie, he didn't even care. With all of his heart, he now wanted to experience femininity and get to know that pretty girl in the mirror better. Ronnie's mother returned from shopping and laid her packages on the bed. She took one look at Ronnie and said, "Oh my God, you are beautiful. I've always wanted a daughter, and now I think that I've got one." Her reaction only added to Ronnie's excitement. Kathy opened the packages and laid everything out on the bed. She checked Ronnie's body for hair and found that there was not much growth at all except a little on his legs and under his arms. She quickly shaved that away. She handed Ronnie a pretty pair of panties and turned away as he slipped them on. They felt so much better than his old shorts, and the laced edges sent chills through him. As Kathy helped with the bra, she showed him how to lean forward so that his breast could settle comfortably into the cups. The cups were full, and Ronnie's breast took on a new prominence that even surprised him. Next came the slip, which Kathy helped pull over his head, showing how to be careful not to get makeup on the white lace. Ronnie couldn't believe the way he felt when he saw himself in the mirror. The dress was light blue with a full skirt and lace on the hem. The top had a sweetheart-style neck with lace treatment and puff sleeves. Kathy zipped up the back and handed Ronnie his matching 2-inch heels and pantyhose. She taught him how to put on the hose, which he found a little difficult at first, but loved the feeling they gave his legs. Ronnie stood in front of the mirror for a long time, first turning this way and then that way. He liked what he saw and to himself said, "That is the real me that I've been searching for. I don't care if I never see the other me again." Kathy sat up her camera with the self-timer and took a picture of the 3 ladies, Kathy, Ronnie, and Ronnie's mother. She sent a copy of the photo to Mark Anderson, and he was delighted with how convincing Ronnie was as a girl. She was so beautiful that he knew that there would be many more TV offers. Looking closely at the picture, he could see a slight trace of a tear on Ronnie's cheek, and he said, "Poor thing, this must be hard on him. I hope that he will be able to endure the masquerade for a bit longer." Little did he know that Kathy and Ronnie were, at that very moment, out shopping with his credit card. They spent several $1,000s, and not a single item was anything that a male could use. He was not aware that Ronnie had just had her nails professionally done and loved the new look. He would be surprised months later when he would discover that Ronnie's change was permanent and that she would never desire to return to her old male self. He would be pleased a year later when Ronnie would become one of the top female vocalists in the country. The tear that he had seen in that first picture had not been a tear of sadness as he had incorrectly assumed, but one of joy, happiness, and a new beginning.